Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire in the SBN Small Business Network podcast. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we have a very special guest. He is an author and former business owner, Mr. Bill Debarba. How you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing just wonderful. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you again for coming on.
I appreciate it. Very good.
So the number one question the audience is probably wondering right now, who is Bill Debarba?
Well, let's start from the beginning. And I won't tell the whole story because at my age, we'll be here until tomorrow morning. But the basics are, I am immigrant, Italian immigrant, first generation American, grew up in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I tell people all the time, I lived in a neighborhood that were all first and second. All my friends were first and second generation. I explained that I think I was about 8 years old before I realized there were people in the world whose last names didn't end in a vowel. And I thought everybody was Italian. And essentially, I grew up with a very strong sense of you work hard in this country. This is a great country, but you have to do your duty. You have to do well in school. You have to work hard in whatever job that you have. And what I learned as time went on, yes, that's good advice, but there's more to it than that. There has to be a feeling in there. There has to be something inside of you that drives you. You know, the old classic saying, I would do this even if I wasn't getting paid. It's that kind of a thing that has to be within you because that's what brings out the creativity. That's what brings out the artistry in whatever it is that you're doing. And I learned that the hard way because I started a business that I had no interest in. And that's a very long story I'm not going to go into, but essentially I just wanted to make some money so I could do the business I wanted to do. And I had, like I said, no interest in it. And within a year and a half, the business went bankrupt and I came that close to personal bankruptcy. So I decided I'm going to do and work hard with what I really wanted to do. It had to do with computer programming. And I started the business based on that. And it lasted 40 years. And the reason it lasted 40 years is because I loved it, which made it real easy to work hard. So I learned the lesson that there are those two things, or there are three things: the things we think about, the things we feel, and then the things that we do. What I was thinking about doing and what I felt was at odds on the first try. What I was thinking about doing and what I felt were together. We were going in the same direction. That's what caused the success that I had. That's what caused the right people at the right time to come to me and say, could you do this for me? That's what created the fact that every job was a little harder than the one before, but not so much that I couldn't do it, but I'd have to learn something new. And that's how it went. And that's how it grew. And that's how I started to understand this. And that's why when I sold the business and sort of retired, my wife keeps asking me the question, tell me again when you're going to retire here. But I haven't given her an answer to that yet. But essentially, I said, I'm going to take what I learned here. I'm going to take my experiences and what I experienced with other people and I saw other people doing. And I'm going to put this together in a book. And it's not complicated. It's not complicated. It's really in depth of understanding who you are and drawing on the resources that are there that have been given to us, that all we have to do is choose to take advantage of them, to use them. And it falls into those three categories.
Awesome.
So that's basically how I got here.
Well, I heard you say before that your success as an entrepreneur stems from a sharp problem-solving mindset and a commitment to helping others navigate challenges. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
When I took on a job, one of the most satisfying things that I had was to see people work with what I produced and their problem solved, at least that part of their problem solved. It is such a warm feeling to know that what you're doing has benefit, not just to you, but it has benefit to the people you're serving. And anybody who really loves their craft will tell you the same thing. I don't care if they do yard work, if they are painters, if they're construction people, if they're lawyers, doctors, whatever it is, the people that truly love what they do and that truly do the best are the ones that care as much about the results of their efforts as they affect those that they work with, those that they serve, as it affects how it benefits them. It works on that same level. And understanding that is critical. Once you get that, it becomes a lot easier to follow through with it.
I completely agree with that. So you elaborate a little bit that you're like semi-retired. What caused you to sell your business and kind of semi-retire and kind of walk away from a business you loved?
Well, as the business grew, I got further and further away from working with the clients. I was more managing. And it's not that I didn't like that, but it didn't give me the same flow. And after you've done something for 40 years, and not that it was exactly the same for 40 years, it changed, it grew, it had different elements to it. I had reached a point in my life, I had turned 70, and I thought, I want to do something else. And I need to sell this business before I can do it, because the business takes up a lot of your time and energy. And if I'm going to write a book, if I'm going to focus, if I'm going to talk to people about it, if I'm going to look at see where I can get speaking engagements, I can't be doing that and running the business. So that became my new passion. And stories, things that I learned about working with people, employees and clients is incredible. It's amazing if you pay attention, if you step back and don't take everything personally and just look and see how they're reacting and what they're doing. I'll give you a classic example. We developed software that was used by the staffing industry, temporary help agencies. We did software and other services for them. We grew to the point where we had clients around the country. And, you know, software is software. And I don't care how well you test it and whatnot, somebody will do something to make things go wrong. People would contact us. They would be concerned because our software drove the payroll to their temp help. These guys don't get paid. They're going down the street to your competitor in 5 minutes if you don't pay them on time. So we would stay right on top of it. If somebody had a problem, we made sure we got it done so that they wouldn't miss payroll. Most people were appreciative. They explained the problem. We worked together. One guy called me one time. He wasn't the only one, but he was the worst. He got on the phone with me and he blasted me. I can't believe you sell this crap. I'm going to call my lawyer. This is a bunch of, and just on and on. And I'm thinking to myself while he's talking, does he not realize that I'm the only one, or some member of my team are the only ones that can help him? And he's standing there or sitting there or talking to me in a way that's just going to do nothing but turn me off. Fortunate for him, I'm a very nice guy. So I didn't hang up on him. I didn't yell back at him. I just waited until he took a breath and said, okay, now tell me what the problem is. And he explained he stopped for a minute and he put somebody else on the line and they told me what was going on. And after a couple of minor conversations, I said, you've got a new employee in there. You just told me that. They don't know what they're doing. Here's what they're supposed to do. As soon as they fixed that, everything went fine. Well, I thought about that a lot. And as I got into the books that I was reading, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, people like that, I started to see a connection. And this is where I found out that we are really three parts as far as our time here on earth. There are three things that drive us: the thoughts, feelings, and actions. And what I realized when I thought back on this is this guy had fear as his feelings. He was scared to death. He wasn't going to get his temps paid on time. But he was expressing anger and bitterness. So he was spinning his wheels. What he was doing was not going to get him anywhere, except for the fact that I'm a nice guy, but we can go into that later. And that's what I am talking about. And we do that a lot. We do that especially when someone else tells us what our goals should be. It's time for you to buy a house. You're old enough now. You should be moving out. You should get your own house. Okay. Yeah. My mom's right. I should go ahead and get my own house. But if deep down inside, you're not feeling any desire, any real excitement about having your own home, you will, without trying, find all the different ways that you'll fail. Because your system is saying, now, you're not serious about this. And so you will not drive in the energy, you will not drive in the resources into your life that would have to happen. The same kind of resources I drove into my life when I started the business I loved, as opposed to everything went wrong when I ran the business I didn't like, when I was still thinking it's hard work and that's all. That's how I learned. And that happens to a lot of people. They're doing what they're told, they're doing what they think they should, but their heart's not in it. And when the heart's not in it, your subconscious, whatever you want to call it, your spirit isn't finding the things for you that you need. Not until you convince it that you're serious and that you are willing to do the effort and also have the feeling.
Wow, that's pretty insightful stuff right there. I mean, I recognize that too a lot, that people kind of follow somebody else's path for them instead of following their own, and kind of don't know what their dreams are because they aren't really self-aware enough. So how do you recommend somebody can kind of ask themselves to find their own dream purpose in life?
You know, sometimes it depends on where they are in their lives. You have young people who are going to school, and I talked to somebody who, I have a degree in engineering, and I talked to somebody who's in a way of getting a degree in engineering. And he was telling me, well, I don't want to be stuck with one thing. I want to go do this and this and this. And I said, you know what? Start out that way. That's fine. But pay attention to how you feel as you do those things. Find the one that really turns you on. Find the one that's like, wow, this is fun. I want to do this. That's how you do it. Now, part of the thing is you have to understand one thing. The power is within you. We can talk about this from a religious standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, from a practical, physical standpoint, whatever you want, whatever makes the most sense. But the power is within you. You have it under your control. Now you can have the courage to go out and really look for something that you love. The problem is we get into the stage of saying, how? I don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't, yeah, okay, I think I'd like that, but there's no way that's going to happen. I can't see the picture of how I'm going to get there. And what I tell people about that is forget the how. That's a dream killer question. Don't worry about the how. You put the feeling and energy into it. You keep reinforcing in yourself. You do that through meditation. You can do it through prayer. You can do it through just observations. All of these things can come into play to focusing on that and let go of the how. If I could tell you the story of how I ended up from Boston to Phoenix, which is unbelievable how it happened.
Go ahead, tell us.
Well, okay. So when I was in college, 1966 through 1970, the Vietnam War was still going on. The draft was still there. So I knew that I would get drafted after I graduated from college if I didn't do something else. So I've always wanted to fly. I've always wanted to fly airplanes. So I said, you know what? If I'm going to go in the military, I'm going to go in the Air Force. Well, I got stationed in Colorado. My second duty station was Luke Air Force Base here in Phoenix. Now, coming from Massachusetts and going to Phoenix, Arizona was like moving to another planet. I mean, in my mind, I was moving to the desert. All I saw was John Wayne with the guns going into the bar. You know, that's how I visualized it. Well, when I got here, I found out it was something other than that. There's the desert, of course, but then you have a major metropolitan city. You drive a little bit north, you've got Sedona, which is absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't been there, I strongly suggest it. But I even more strongly suggest when I saw the Grand Canyon. That took my breath away. That absolutely was a spiritual experience for me. I could not believe how it impacted me. And I actually saw it for the first time in the cockpit of a light aircraft that I flew over the top of it. And I was like, oh my God, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to live. But when I got out of the Air Force, the Vietnam War was winding down and the defense industries were laying off really talented engineers. I had the degree, but no experience. So I said, all right, I'll go back to Massachusetts. The company I was working for there, the way the rules were then, they had to give me my job back because I had gone into the military. So I got my engineering job back, and they assigned me to an area, high-tech, quartz crystal, electronic circuitry stuff. I don't even want to go into it. But it was brand new. Now, I didn't ask for that. I just wanted to go there and go back to work there because I wanted to gain some experience. And I gave myself a 5-year plan. The 5-year plan was I'm going to gain some experience. The economy will swing. It always does. And then I'm going to go back down to Phoenix and I'm going to look for a job. Well, I have to tell you, Ryan, I told everybody that I met, whether they wanted to hear it or not, how wonderful that place was in Arizona, how I'm going to be there. There was no doubt in my mind. It wasn't, well, I hope or if, or no, there was no doubt. This was decades before I read all this stuff and learned about it. I was using it without knowing. And I didn't worry about it. This is what I'm going to be doing. End of subject. And I had that plan. I was 1 year into my plan when I got a call from a headhunter in a town about 20 miles from where I was working up in Massachusetts. And he said, I got a company I think you should be talking to. Well, what I learned was that the new technology that I was in this company was new enough so there were very few engineers that knew anything about it. Now, I didn't know that was the way it was going to be. That's just where they assigned me. So I met with the company in the town in Massachusetts, and the first thing they asked me, are you willing to relocate? And I said, well, I don't know, that depends. And he said, well, we need you in our plant in Phoenix, Arizona. My 5-year plan became a 1-year plan. I think my subconscious, which I give credit to bringing all these things into our lives, I think it basically said, I can't take 4 more years of this. I'm just go. And that's exactly what happened. And that was 1973, and I've been here ever since.
That is an awesome story. It's people don't understand how much manifestation is real.
Yes.
When you tell yourself something and put it out there, that the stuff comes true.
It does. And that's why I say, don't worry about how it's going to happen. Just keep that dream within you all the time. It will happen. Maybe not in the exact way you expected, but it will happen.
Like I said, I love that story and like your self-awareness you had on everything and other people not kind of can't be self-aware enough. Like I always tell everybody, hey, just go develop skills. You'll be led to where you want to go because a lot of times you think you're going in one direction and God will redirect you in another once you get them skills developed anyways.
That's right. That's right. Because you know what? The success is not the specific thing. The success is the feeling you're expecting from that specific thing. And you may be guided to something else that will do a better job of giving you that sense of purpose and that feeling. And, you know, what we were talking about there, how you just can dream about it. You do it whatever. It may not be the exact thing you were thinking about, but your subconscious is going after the feeling. That's the real goal. And that's how it goes down. A lot of times it is what you think that's going to give you the feeling, but not always. Not always. It could be something else. So you have to be open.
I love that. So your book is called The Process of Living. What led you to write it?
Well, a combination of my experiences and my questioning of things that were happening. That story I told you about the guy that was all upset, and I told that story to somebody who had read some of the literature that I had not started yet. And he explained to me what I told you, that he was spinning his wheels going nowhere because of the difference between what he was feeling and what he was doing. And I said, that sounds interesting. So I started attending lectures and I started reading books and I saw so much in there. But I wanted to take the approach, not so esoteric out there in the sky. That's just my nature. I wanted to take a very practical approach as I saw it. And the one thing I saw universal in all of these is we are in control. Until we get that, we can't do anything. We can't get anything real accomplished. When I say in control, I mean, if someone says this to me and because of that, I did this, no. Okay, if she was talking about me and I didn't like what she said, then I walked out of the room. Explain to me who's running your life. Who exactly is running your life? If what they say or do makes you behave in a way that you know isn't right for you, then you're basically saying, I don't have any control. These people run my life. That's important. That's very important because we live in a society that blames. I mean, pick up the paper, listen to the news, talk to the neighbors. Okay. Everybody's got somebody they want to blame for something. And that gets us nowhere. That puts us in a position of subservience to other people's wishes, sayings, what they do, whatever. It puts us in that kind of a position. It doesn't work. You can't move forward in your life. Your life as a human being, your life as a child of God, how else? It doesn't make any difference how you look at it from that point of view. It matters that you understand that this is within your control and you have all the resources necessary to do it if you take them. If you give it all up to somebody else, then you're back to spinning your wheels.
I love that. So how much does the lack of accountability and people blaming everybody else for their problems hinder someone's success?
100%. I mean, it's like one of the things I've noticed, and I don't care if we're talking about siblings, neighbors, a town, a state, the country, the world, you see it all the time. I'm going to start talking to you about my opinion on something. Now, I don't mean you, Ryan, but I'm saying a lot of people will start to listen. And if they don't agree with what I am talking about, they stop listening. There's a big difference between hearing and listening. They'll stop listening and they'll start formulating in their mind what their response is going to be, how they're going to show me how wrong I am. Meanwhile, they're not hearing with the rest of what I'm saying. It's very possible that I'm not that far away from what they actually would expect or what they would want. But they don't know that because they stop listening. So then what happens? They come back to me trying to prove me wrong. It's obvious to me they didn't hear what I had to say. So I'm not going to listen to them. And it all builds up. How much do we get accomplished in our lives, in our towns, in our states, in our country, in the world? How much are we really getting accomplished? We're spinning our wheels at all levels, and it's getting scary. To me, that's the biggest single problem. We're not working together. I don't care what side you're on. You've got to be able to work with the other side in anything. It could be your spouse we could be talking about. It could be a neighbor down the street. It could be anybody. But the bottom line is, if you can't do that, you can't solve problems. It's impossible.
So you mentioned fear a little bit right there. What are some tips that someone could overcome their fears?
There's a lot of different types of fears. I get a gal at the gym I work out with. She's scared to death of disconnecting her propane gas thing to her barbecue pit because she thinks it's going to explode. Now, I told her I'd go help her with it and take care of it. There are fears of all kinds. I took people flying who were scared of flying. So there are some that are, how can I say it? There are some that are not that bad. I mean, look, if you don't like flying, don't fly. It's not that big of a deal. But it could be inconvenient. But the bottom line is what we fear in respect to what we want, what we're afraid of that's going to happen to us if we pursue a certain path. That is the tough part. That is the part that has to be addressed. How do you do it? You can talk to people who've been there. You can talk to people who've done it. You can see how they manage their fears and how they manage to overcome them. But more important than all, you have to have an open mind. If you say, I can't do that because I'm scared of this, and you stop there, then guess what? You can't do that. But instead, if you say, there has got to be a way I can overcome this fear, let me talk to the people who've done it. Let me see how reasonable my fears are. Let me see if I can take a chance at a smaller level and see some progress and see what happens. The answer depends a lot on what it is. It could be a relationship issue. I'm afraid to date because I'm always brokenhearted. It could refer to a school thing. I've never been good in school. I can't go for a degree in XYZ. It could have to do with just about anything. It could have to do with anything that you're afraid of, but there's a part of you that says, but I sure would like to be able to have it. You work at it. You study it. That's basically how it works. It has to be meaningful enough to you that you are willing to find out what it's going to take to overcome the fear.
Yeah. One thing I've also noticed too is that the thing we probably fear the most is usually the path we're going to get pushed down anyways to our calling in life.
Yes,
And that's
exactly.
what makes it so much fun and kind of
Yeah,
scary at the same time.
it does. And you have to, and you either face it or you run away and you go nowhere. I mean, facing the fear is the thing that gets you where you need to be. And it's amazing how you will find answers if you look for answers instead of looking for excuses why you can't do it. I can tell you when that first business went bankrupt, I started looking for a job. There was a recession going on then too. And I said, I don't know that I can do this. I'm really scared. And I finally said, you know what? This is what I want to do. If I'm going to be poor, then let me be poor doing something I love. And the hell with it. I don't care. And guess what? Everything fell into place like I described before because I faced the fear. Because I said, I'm going to do this.
I
And that's
love it.
true in so many different ways. It really is. There's so many different ways.
What's the most important principle to you in your book and why?
I think the most important principle is how you apply the process of living, the thing that is the three parts. Okay. How do you apply it in two different areas? One is getting rid of learned behaviors that are not working for you, things that you are addicted to. You could be addicted to playing solitaire. You could be addicted to drugs, smoking, drinking. There's any number of types of things that you can be addicted to. And the understanding that you can use the process to work on those learned behaviors. And when you do, then you can start making the progress that you need. But don't be discouraged if you fall back. It's likely to happen. When you were learning how to walk, you didn't have it all right at the beginning. You fell down a lot of times before you could get yourself up and go from point A to point B. Well, that process doesn't change. You still have to do those kinds of things in order. Absorb the failures as you will. They're not really failures. They're only failures if you give up as a result. What they are learning tools. Your biggest learning tool is the last mistake you made. That's on one of my posts on Facebook. That is where you pick it up. Now that's one. The other side is applying those principles to achieving a goal. Getting rid of what you don't want, getting what you don't have. How do I achieve the goal? Well, first thing you do is know what the goal is and make sure, as we talked about earlier, that feeling is within you. The second thing is you use your thought to visualize. I want that house. What kind of a house do I want? 1 story, 2 stories? How many square feet? How many bedrooms? Does the family room and kitchen tie together? You have to see it. You have to understand that it is something specific. It's not just a house. It is a specific place you want to live that you can see yourself walking into it. You can see the furniture. That is what generates the subconscious. That's what generates your spirit side to be able to find what you need to do that. That's what got me from Massachusetts back to Phoenix. I saw it. I felt it. This was going to happen. I don't care if I don't know how exactly. I have my plan, but I don't really know how it's going to happen. But that is where you go to get that place. See, because of my experiences and because of what I've seen other people's experiences, I said, this is too valuable. And it can be done in a way that's very practical, very matter of fact. You see it, you feel it, you visualize it, you start your work toward it, and things are going to go wrong. That's okay. You don't give up. You go to the next thing. What did I learn from this? All right, let's try that. Okay. That is what's most important in the book, is knowing that these three things are under your control if you take it. If you take the control, they're under your control. And the limits are, there aren't any.
I like how you make it sound so simple.
Some things are simple. That doesn't mean they're easy. Okay? There's a lot of simple things that not necessarily easy to do. They're easy to understand.
Yeah, I like that though. It's just you put it out there, just a matter of fact. It's like just so simple. It's like it kind of is simple if you just don't quit and you just have that resilience and just keep bouncing back and have that self-awareness enough to keep making adjustments along the way.
Yeah, and it's true. And you got to be careful who you hang out with. The people that will tell you, look what happened to you, Bill. Come on, get real. You need to go back and work on this. You grew up in Boston, you stay in Boston. I mean, those kinds of things. You have those kind of people, you want to stay away from them as much as you can. Your environment is really critical, whether you're trying to get rid of a bad habit. If you go every day with your buddies after work to the bar and have some drinks, and you say to yourself, okay, I got to stop having these drinks every day. But these are my buddies. I'll go with them to the bar, but I won't have any drinks. You're kidding yourself. It's not going to happen. Your environment and the people you hang with are critical to your success, whether you're trying to get rid of something or get something. And people that can encourage you, that care about you, that truly love you and want you to be successful in the way that you want to be, those are the people. Those are the groups you want to hang around with, especially those people who've done it, who can give you the encouragement. Yes, you can do this. Here's how I did. Here's some ideas. Doesn't mean you follow it exactly, but at least gives you the awareness that you can have it, that it can be done. And you hang with the people that reinforce you getting it accomplished. Again, whether it's something you want to get rid of or something you want to gain, doesn't matter. Process is the same.
Yeah, I think the people you hang around or around and you're in the environment you're in, like, plays probably the most critical thing to somebody if they're going to succeed or not.
It is the most critical thing. I've read books about it. I've talked to people about it, and basically I get the same kind of feedback. Willpower is important, but the environment you're in is going to have a bigger influence as to whether you can use that willpower to really get something. Otherwise, you'll just back and forth.
Yeah. Why did you write a second edition to your book?
Because you have to learn, and it has to not go well so you can learn and do it right. Okay. Goes along with what I was saying. No, it's funny because I wrote it, and when I wrote it, it made perfect sense to me. But that doesn't mean it made perfect sense to a lot of other people. And one of the things I talked about is in the book, I talk about the energy that we put out. I talk about how our subconscious, and you can, people call it soul, call it divine energy, call it anything you want to call it, but it's what goes from us to the things that we want to attract to our lives. And it will attract whatever we want. It doesn't matter what's good for us, it's not good for us, it's evil, it's wonderful. It doesn't matter. If we want it, we will attract it. And I explained that as I went through the book. I had at least a half a dozen people come to me and say, Bill, I put the book down at that point. It's too complicated. It was too techy. I was comparing it to like sending signals out from a radio or from a television or Wi-Fi and how it's received and on and on. And I said, okay. So one of the big things I did was when I got to that point, I said, if you want to know how this works, go to Appendix A. If you don't care, just trust me and just keep reading. Okay. That was the main one. But there were also a lot of other things that people read and called my attention to that when they read it, it said, well, do you mean this? And I'm thinking, okay, if that isn't clear, then I need to rewrite it. And I have got the best editor in the world. She's in the room over there. And she's not afraid to tell me what's wrong. And the other thing I do, being Italian, there's two things. First of all, I use a lot of words. And second of all, I use my hands a lot when I talk. And she can read it and say, you see this 18-word sentence? You can make it clear if you make it 9 words. Okay. And she would tell me what the 9 words are. And I had other friends too who were going over it. So basically, the original set the foundation. Now, with all the input I got from a lot of other sources, then I could make it better. I could basically say, yeah, I want to get these points across. Here's a better way to get them across. So that's what I came to. And you know what, Ryan, I'm still learning things. I'm still getting feedback. And it's like, I don't know, maybe there'll be a 3rd edition if I live long enough. I might do that.
Is all that feedback maybe inspiring you maybe to write another book?
Not at the time. Not right now. I'll be honest with you. You know how many self-help, quote unquote, books are out? Millions of them. I mean, there's just so many different things. People, some are very specific about a certain type of thing. There are people who've been abused, and it's helped specifically, to help them, and so on. All kinds of different areas that it's in. My goal is to talk about this, and I don't mean just one-on-one. I mean, why I'm here with you is to have other people hear it. I have given speeches at business meetings. I've given speeches at a church, prisons. I gave speeches for quite a while until COVID. I went out there and I gave a women's prison. They had a second chance program. And I was one of many people that came in and give them training, some in very practical stuff, some in more along the lines of what I've just been talking to you about all this time. And that was, you talk about a satisfying feeling. And having some of them talk to me afterwards and what they had to say, it was fantastic. I started doing it in men's prison, but that, again, COVID came up and everything came to a shutdown. But now I'm still doing it at St. Mary's Food Bank. And funny story, a couple of the gals, I gave the presentation and they came up to me afterwards and said, yeah, I heard you say that when I was in Perryville prison. So they were going through St. Mary's to get some skills to be able to get out there and work. And those people are fantastic. I'll tell you what, those people at St. Mary's, they are saints themselves. They really, really work to help these people get back into society. So, so that's the real goal. That's the real goal. I want people to see this, and I want them to watch this video that we're doing right now. And I want somebody in there to say, ooh, I like what he's saying. I'd like to have him talk to my fill in the blank, my company, my else group, my whatever, church I go to, anything that would benefit from hearing this. That's what I want to do it, because that's where I learn the most too. I could write a dozen books, but I don't learn like I learn when I'm giving this presentation to people and I see their reaction and I hear what they have to say. That's where I really learn.
Yeah. Is that what led you to start speaking? Was just wanting to inspire more people?
I did. Yes, it does. And I love doing it. Again, it goes back to that same thing. I love it. I have fun doing it, and it has value. At least that's the feedback I'm getting, and so I hope it's true. But it has value to people. They learn something from it. They may take something away that they can use. I'm able, and it's kind of sad, I don't ever see these people again. And so I don't really know how it ended up for them. And it would be fun to know that. I remember when I was doing it at the prisons, they said, you do not discuss your private life and you do not ask them anything about their private life. You just keep it at the even if they ask you questions about, you just kind of bypass that. So it was very strict about what you could say and do about yourself or what you could ask about them. But that would be nice to know. But I have a good feeling just from
Yeah.
the reactions. I do have a
Well,
good
I'm
feeling.
sure. I'm sure you'll get some sort of confirmation at some point when God feels you're ready to know about it. It
Yes,
usually happens that way.
yes, absolutely. It does.
So, what has speaking with inmates taught you compared to religious communities? That's like such a big difference.
Yeah, it is. But you understand, and I'm sure you know, the recidivism rate in prisons is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a revolving door. They're coming back out. This group that I talk to is part of the Second Chance program. And these are the people that are selected that they feel with some guidance and with some help may just not come back. They may do something else. And the difference isn't that much. The specifics are different, but they are hearing what I'm saying and thinking, gosh, I could apply that. I can make, that's the feedback I'm getting. I could do something with this. I can talk to a church group and get exactly the same reaction. The details are a lot different, that's for sure. Okay. There's a lot of difference there, but the process is the same. What I'm hoping for when I do this is that people will, first of all, know that they have the power to do it, and then will focus themselves to do whatever it is that's on their agenda. What is it that I want to do? I can do it. I follow this process of living and I can do it.
Do you feel like you're making a difference?
I do. I do. Can I give you absolute evidence? Can I bring
Yeah.
somebody in and say, here, this is a person that life's changed because I've done it? It's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling from the way they look at me, from the attention they give me, from the comments they give me. I changed my St. Mary's Food Bank presentation to stop at certain points and say, tell me about your life. Anybody who wants to talk about it. And I do have some people who will tell me their stories and will ask me questions. How can I do it with this? And I can get specific into that. And there have been people who I can't let them go on too long in the middle of the presentation because I got 30, 40, 50 people in here. And but I will say stay after and we'll talk. And I'll give that. That's why I know. That's why I know.
Awesome.
I mean, that's just one part of it. It's also you have people who are giving you their, I mean, they're looking at you. And you can tell. You can tell. I remember one time my speech at St. Mary's goes about an hour and a half, and about 45 minutes into it, I was supposed to take a 10-minute break for them as well as for me. And this one time, I was just on a roll and I kept going, and it was like 15 minutes left, and I hadn't taken the break yet. And I said, "Oh, guys, I'm sorry, I forgot to take the break." And one of the guys stood up and he said, "No, just keep going, just keep going." Those are the kinds of things here and there. They don't happen at every time, but there's enough of them that make me feel very strongly that, yeah, people are getting something out of this. I can't tell you who exactly, and I can't tell you what exactly, but I just have a strong feeling about it.
Awesome. That's all that matters too, is you're making a big difference in somebody else's lives and giving them some sort of value.
Exactly.
What's probably the most challenging part for you in public speaking then?
It's learning about my audience. Now, if I give the same audience over and over again, the same type of audience, it's not so bad. But if I'm going into a group to talk to, I need to understand, who are these people? What are their visions? What do they believe? If I'm talking to a religious group, that may not be the same thing as talking to people coming out of prison. So I have to adjust what I'm saying, not the meaning of it, but how I present it, the examples that I use. What is going to be something that's not going to leave them with, what the hell is he talking about? Kind of attitude. I need to understand them better. So I ask a lot of questions. I talk to the people who've asked me to come and speak. Tell me about your group. Tell me about their experience. What's their age range? Are they mostly professionals or are they blue collar type workers? How do there's only way I can know how to make my presentation is I've got to know my audience, and they're not all going to be the same, but generally speaking, they're in groups that have a lot in common. And so that's the hardest part, is to making sure that I take the time to find out who these people are that I'm going to be talking to and make sure that I give the same message, but in a way that they're more likely to say, oh, wow, as opposed to, I don't get it. Yeah.
What is one book you'd recommend on personal development or mindset?
There's a book. God, it's escaping me. Anyway, The Untethered Soul. And I can't remember the author's name, but it really gets into the concept of how you can know yourself, how you can handle the various crises that come into your life, how you can apply simple principles to solve problems. And Michael Singer is the author. I really like that book. And there have been several others. There's Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. He came here in 1920, formed a church with the understanding that we need to understand that Hinduism and Christianity and different religions are ultimately saying the same things in their own ways. And that we have prejudices against some of these things because we don't understand. We don't understand what they're really about. And that was his mission coming over here. And that's a very good book. Wayne Dyer. And I can't think of all the titles, but I've read more Wayne Dyer things that I can keep track of. He's passed away, but he wrote some really fantastic stuff. And so that inspired me a lot. A lot of these books I read before I wrote mine.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can kind of tie something from one book to another, and each one will leave you a clue on your own journey, and then you can put it all together and give a message to somebody else.
Oh, yeah. And it goes back to the same story about if you're focused on it and you really want it and you really believe it, you'll be drawn to the things that will help you put that together, that will help you to get the ideas that this is what I'm trying to say. This is better than what I had heard before. I like this. I'm going to build on that.
Yeah.
So that's what you draw into your life when you have that kind of a focus.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you?
Theprocessofliving.com. They get everything they need to know about me there. And they can go ahead and get the book. They can contact me, email, phone number, text message me, whatever they want. And I also have written some blogs in there that I feel very good about. And they can read those, and that gives them a real good sense of what I'm about. Those will really tell you this is what this guy's about. So I can decide now whether I want to talk to him or not before I even pick up the phone or write the email. But the processingliving.com, I've got an area there that has some audio and video stuff. And they can pick up a lot of information there and everything they need to either buy the book or call me, either one.
Awesome. I'll also put all that in the show notes too for anybody wanting to reach out to you.
That's great.
Is there anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
I think, and it's not that I haven't talked about it, but I think the most important thing in all of this is to know that you are the one in control of your life. Nobody else, no other human being is in control of your life. When you let go of the idea that other people can affect you in a way to do things that you really don't want to do, that you shouldn't be doing, you shouldn't be doing, you have the power to accomplish whatever you need to accomplish. If you can get that solidified, there's no stopping.
Okay, final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
Confidence and persistence. Know you can do it and keep going, even when things aren't looking good. Know it. Not think it, not hope it, but know it. There's a quote in the Bible, and I wish I kept it in front of me, but it basically says, that for which you pray and ask, know that you have received it, and it will be granted to you. It's Mark 11:15. I have to get it in front of me to remember.
I know it's what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. The Bible does it so much better. One little statement in there. It says the whole thing.
Yeah.
I got to go through all of this stuff, but basically that's what it's saying. Know that you have received it and it will be granted to you. That's the thing I want them to remember.
Great advice. Well, Bill, thank you very much for coming on. You have such a great story and have such great insight.
And I appreciate that very much. And I so appreciate you having me on here. I remember when I read about you and I said, I got to be talking to this guy. There's no question.
Well, I'm glad you decided to come on, reach out and come on, man. I've had a great time talking with you.
Same here. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is go through the fire.